Check.
Check, check.
Check, check. Oh my goodness. Okay. Check, check. Hello. Check for live stream. Thank you.
Check two. Okay. All right, we're going to start in a minute, everybody. 1 minute, we'll start. Hey, everybody, if you haven't already, please take a seat. We're going to start the assembly with our guest speaker. If you haven't already, please take a seat. Hey, thanks for coming out, everyone. Whether you're watching this afar in a classroom or here, we have Latinos in action in the house with Mr. Sloan and his leaders, Daphne. Give it up for them for helping put this together. You guys rock. We also have the Restoring Culture people here, along with We Dine Together. But more importantly, we have a guest speaker. She's a councilwoman and also a Cubana, and she wants to talk a little bit about her path through school, college, working in the community, and being a leader. Please give it up for Yvette Drucker, everybody.
Thank you. Good morning. Buenos dias. Thank you so much for having me here, Mr. Hernandez, Latinos in Actions. Special shout out to Ari, who came to me for Restoring Culture. I'm so happy to be here, and after a day off, I'm sure you guys are happy to be here too. So my journey, I'm a city councilwoman with the city of Boca Raton. I'm the first Hispanic on the council, so the first minority. The city will celebrate 100 years in 2025, and that's why that's such an important milestone for me personally and for all of us to have representation. So my journey started, I was born in New Jersey to two Cuban parents that left Cuba in 1957. So to give you a little context, Castro was in power, so they left right when Batista was still there, and Castro came in 1959. So my parents came here as immigrants, did not speak the language, went to New Jersey, and then they came back to Miami, where I spent 20 years. I've been in Boca Raton for 20 years now, which is almost a little bit less than half my life. But my parents did not finish school, so my parents dropped out of high school. My mom, later in life, went ahead and got her GED. So when I was growing up, and I'll go back for a minute. My dad they're both retired now, auto body mechanic, and my mom was an assistant cafeteria manager for almost 40 years for a high school, Braddock down south. So I always saw my parents work really hard, but my mother in particular would always say, you have to go to school, you have to go to college, you got to get a better job, you have to work. From a very small age, probably by the time I was in 5th, 6th grade, I started getting involved in community work. I knew I was born to serve, so I'll preface with that. The reason I have this job today, and I love this job, is because some people are born to do something, and that was my something, to serve people, help people. So in middle and high school, I was involved in every club you could imagine. FEA, FBLA, French Honor Society, Spanish Honor Society, English Honor Society, any type of society I was involved with. Adopt a Highway, I don't know if they even have that now. Beach cleanups, Civitank Club, anything and everything I was involved. Student government, I was student council vice president. So I was involved with all sorts of community givebacks as a very, very young adult. Then when time for college came, I applied. I really wanted to go to FSU or to Boston University because of my political inclinations. But my story did not happen that way. My parents were very concerned with student debt, which I'm sure some of you are applying to colleges now. So back then they had something similar to Bright Futures, where I was able to go to Miami-Dade Community College for my AA, all paid for. And then depending on what grades you got there, I would end up at FIU on scholarship as well. So I ended up staying home and pivoting my plan of going away to school. I ended up working. So right during this time, I got an opportunity to work for a very big company. And it was a corporate company. I was about 20 years old when I joined, and I started there as a filing clerk. And very soon, they put me in a program that's called corporate grooming. They groom you for leadership, and I already had a lot of leadership from my past in high school and middle school. I always served in leadership roles. And I became a full-time employee. So I went to school full-time and I worked full-time. By the age I was 25, I was in management. I was managing a staff. I ended up in that career, what I call my first chapter of business America, or corporate America. I was there for about 13 years. In 2008, I had a 2-year-old and I had a brand new baby, and you guys are really young, but something happened which was like economic recession. We went into economic recession in 2008, and I had to pivot my plans. So I decided that I would stay home with my kids, and I was afforded this amazing platform where I didn't have to work, but I can give back. So that's what I did. For the next 13 years, I've served in over 19 boards in this community, raising money and advocating for children and families, which is really my passion, to help people. Fast forward to about 2 years ago, COVID happened, right? So the pandemic was here, and I saw an opportunity where I could serve at a larger scale. And my kids are older. I have 2 high schoolers, and they were older, and I felt, well, this is the perfect time to give back to a community. For other people, they would say, you're nuts. This is the worst time to be in government. I thought this is the best time to be in government, because how are we going to get back from this, be resilient, and move forward? So I ran for office. I won the election. That was last year, March of 2021. I've been serving for about 1.5 years. And before that, I served by appointment for 6 months. So that was kind of how I got to the city council. I had to go through all these different setbacks, pushbacks, changes in life, and I ended up where I'm at now. And you're asking, what does a city councilwoman do? So I'm going to explain this. So we are architects of policy. My job is to interpret policy that affects the city that you live in. I sit with the mayor, who's also elected, and 3 other council members. So we're a body of 5. And we have what's called a city manager, city attorney form of government. So the 5 of us, architects of policy, give the recommendation to the city manager and the city attorney, who effectively run the 2,000 employees, 70 departments that we have in our city. And we're over fire, police, parks, the beaches, the water that you drink, waste management, recycling, anything that touches your city, streets, street lights, sidewalks, anything and everything, again, that touches the city. And for me, it was so important to run during COVID, because the city never stopped. Your garbage was collected, there was water running. They were our real, true, essential employees. And for that, we're always grateful and thankful. We have an amazing city group staff. So that's kind of how I decided to run. I ran on a platform of public service, which is what I still do today, a public servant. And I love this job. I absolutely love this job. I know it sounds weird, but if you love what you do, the rest will follow. I guarantee it. So now I've just been serving. I sit on a couple of other councils or governing bodies that they call it. And one of the most exciting things that happened is I got appointed to this, it's called the Palm Beach TPA, which is a transportation planning agency. And I remember my first day when I got appointed to this council, I was like, why? Ooh, that sounds like kind of boring. So fast forward 2 years, I'm obsessed with anything transportation. I have learned about bridges, roads, causeways, streets, parking garages, parking lots. And I share that with you because it's important to sometimes, when something just comes to you and you're like, why? Just take it, learn from it, make it happen. And right now, some of the people call me transit queen. I don't know if that's true, but you know, it's a very exciting time. We're having our own Brightline station coming soon. So, you know, with that and it's coming soon, we're kind of going to go all aboard. And it's changing. It changes the dynamic of your city when you have all this public transportation. So I've been really happy to sit on transportation and just learning a lot. So another thing that you should take with you is continue to learn. And when things come to you, even if they seem a little boring, because by the way, I was like, why am I sitting on that? I would rather sit on something else. I've learned so much, and now I hope they continue to appoint me to that transportation committee. I also do some stuff with planning councils across the county and the state. I also do fly-ins to Tallahassee to advocate for like legislative policy to protect home rule, protect our residents. No one knows our residents, but the people that are here every day in and out. So that's another part of the job. I'm trying to think if I'm missing things with the job. And in terms of being Hispanic, I attend a lot of the Hispanic events that are in town, and I'll tell you, there's not a lot of electeds that are Hispanic. I think the last Hispanic Chamber event that I went to, I think we're 7 for the county. And I think I was like the 5th. So 2 more women have been elected since I was elected. So that's always important. Again, it's about representation. So we're pushing forward. In South County, I think I'm the only one. But maybe that'll change because we have an election coming up in March. So, and there's one in November, so things change all the time. But the more that we push forward and run for office, and then we have a seat at the table. So if you're thinking about running for office or want to be just involved in your community or just sit on a board or just give back, I would really, really highly encourage that. Because it's not where you start, but it's where you end, and the journey takes different forms. If you would have told me to my young self, you know, I grew up in Miami in a very Latino community by the name of Westchester, and it's not Westchester, New York, it's Westchester, Miami. You know, I would have never thought I would be serving here in Boca Raton as the first Latina, so it's a big deal for me. We are the fastest growing minority. So that's another thing that we have to look out for. And, you know, I'm really excited that I get to not only do work here in the city, but also outside of the city to push forward our cause with many, many different groups, whether I'm speaking at the universities, which I've done this month for Hispanic Heritage Month, or speaking to groups, business groups about, you know, how different it is to be a Hispanic in business. And so that's something else that I'm really proud of. And I think we were going to have some questions, right? So I'm not sure who's going to come up. So I think a lot of these questions will go into some of the journey as well.
My question for you is, what were your struggles in school growing up?
So my struggles were, so very early on, and some of you, if you're from Miami, you can hear the accent. So I was an ESOL student. So I went to school and I didn't speak English. So in the first grade, kindergarten and first grade, I had to learn. So Spanish is my first language and English is my second language in terms of learning. So that was a little bit of a struggle as an elementary because you kind of fall a little behind because everything is taught in English. So I had to learn the language. Which obviously I did. So that was one of the struggles as an elementary. As a middle and high school, you know, I think, you know, my parents did as good as they could because they never did the system. They were never they never went to college and they didn't go through the high school. So I didn't really have kind of a mentor. I had teachers that I looked up to and people that would tell me things to do. I didn't really find the mentor till I went into that corporate job. So I mentioned to some of you earlier, I'm a mentor for a student who's now a senior at FSU, and her and I have had a very similar path in terms of her being the first college graduate in her family. I was the first college graduate in my family. So finding that mentor, I think if I would have had a mentor, maybe that would have helped me out a little. So if there's someone in your life that you look up to, a mentor, a teacher, even a peer, always listen to other people's inputs because sometimes it could really help you when you're trying to make decisions.
My question is, what advice would you give your 16-year-old self and why?
What advice would I give my 16-year-old self? Well, I have a 16-year-old who just turned 17. I think life changes. Life changes and your ability to be resilient. That's why I love those shirts when I came in. And really pivot, I think is important to pivot. But the main thing I would give everyone, and I think because we're all like so busy and running around and trying to get, you know, for you guys, your college applications or whatever it is that you're doing in your day, or sports or clubs, is really take care of yourself, self-care. There's no one that's going to take care of you the way that you're going to take care of yourself. Set the boundaries and balance. It's hard. It's something I struggle with, balancing. But take care of yourself and know when to pivot. And sometimes pivot means saying no. I think that no is a reasonable answer, and we're very afraid with our culture to say no. So I would give myself 3 advices: self-care, pivot when needed, and say no.
What made you become Congresswoman?
So I'm a councilwoman, maybe someday a congresswoman. So congresswomen are in the federal level. Again, my passion to serve. I wanted to help people. I help people every day in different ways. And I wanted to do something at a larger scale. And I really just wanted to give back in a different platform, not from a nonprofit. I just felt I was at the best time because of the pandemic, because of my background with corporate America and my community background. It was the best time for me to jump in and try to, you know, run for office. You have to win as well. Obviously, that's a whole other conversation for another day. But I just thought I was the best candidate for this community at the best time. And I knew that I was going to do it for the people. Every day my job is for the people. This is not about me. This is about the people that I serve. You barely hear me call myself a politician. I'm a public servant. That is how I ran, and that's how I will continue to run while serving here in the city.
What is your advice for students who want to go into leadership positions in their careers, and what should they be working towards now?
Highly encourage leadership positions, especially Latinos, Latinas, any minority group this applies to. The more you enter into leadership, don't be afraid. Just go for it. Sign up. If you get it, it was meant to be. If you didn't, try again. Try to be a leader, whether it's in your church, your temple, your class, even amongst your peers. Sometimes there's one person that always takes leads to make plans. That's a form of a leadership. You're making plans, you're organizing a dinner, you're organizing a birthday. I highly encourage leadership. I've been doing leadership roles since I was, I want to say 6th grade or 5th grade. I would have asked my parents, but my mom would always say, every weekend you're collecting garbage. I mean, what is, like, she couldn't understand it. She was like, why are you picking up garbage every Saturday at, you know, so early? And I was like, well, this is helping the environment, and this is helping, and this is a long time ago. I graduated 30 years ago. So I think anything you can do in leadership, whether it's a class, whether it's a seminar, whether it's learning from others, will set you up for the next step. Doesn't mean you have to run for office. It doesn't mean you have to be a president, but leadership comes in different forms.
In your opinion, what qualities should a good leader have?
Listening. Most of my job is listening. Like 99% of my job is to listen to people, whether good feedback or bad feedback. If you're not listening, you're not learning. How are you going to learn about things if you're not listening to the people? So I think listening, and I'm speaking for myself, caring. I care. This is who I am. And just transparency, especially when you're in government. So, but listening, I listened so much, a lot, to people and the feedback and just listening, caring, being transparent, and understanding that sometimes what's important to you might not be important to me, but it's my job to listen to you because it's important to you. And I think if we do more of that, even outside of work, I think we would really be a kinder group of humans.
What was it like pursuing a leadership role as a Latina woman?
You know, it's been interesting, and I'll say this story because I wear a lot of color. So yellow wasn't planned. I wear color. That's my big thing. And if you've seen a lot of the council women or council or government, there's a lot of dark, like black and gray and navy. So the first day they came to shoot my commercial for the campaign, I wore a red dress, which I keep here as a reminder on my face, my screensaver. And it was like an orangey red. Oh, and I wear red lipstick. That was a big thing that they made a big deal about. And they came in and they're like, I could tell people were very concerned as to what is going on here. Like, what is she wearing? And I was like, what do you mean, what am I wearing? They're like, where's a navy dress? And I was like, a navy dress? I don't even think I own a navy dress. And I barely wear black, I'll tell you that. Like, to funerals, and it has a little white. So I felt like from my Latina background, we are a very colorful community. That's one of the things that you do see the difference in some of the other cultures. And it's not being mean to any other culture. It's just, this is what I grew up with, a lot of color. I like flower patterns, I like color. So I dug my heels in and I said, I'm gonna wear the red dress. And I didn't wear the red lips because it was too much, it was like, with what I was wearing, I wore a hot pink lip. And I said, if I start changing what I wear every day, what I look like, then people will know that it's not me. So always stay true to who you are. How you dress, what you say, how you look. I wasn't gonna change. If I start wearing black and navy, everybody would be like, what's happening? As a matter of fact, when I go to things and I wear darker colors, I'll have people say, I can't believe that you're so dark today. Is everything okay? And I'm like, yeah, it's okay. I mean, I have to wear a different, just today was this color. So I think staying true to yourself. Also, I got a lot of like, she doesn't look like a councilwoman. Well, what does a councilwoman look like? I'm not sure. I mean, I am a woman that represents a city that has a lot of different people, and I don't think those questions would be asked of men, for example. So I think that stay true to who you are. I've had a lot of that with the way I dress, the way, the colors that I use. People don't even think I'm Hispanic. So sometimes when I just start speaking in Spanish, it throws everyone for a loop. And they're just like, oh, we thought you were something else. So I think you have a little bit of that bias being Latina, and she's too loud, or she could be, they confuse, you know, they think you're angry. And I don't call it anger, I call it I'm very passionate when I deliver a message. So you face that, and that's part of the job. And I was telling some of the ladies earlier, part of the job is getting criticized, sometimes nice things, sometimes not nice, but it's part of the job. And I'm gonna continue to move forward, being transparent and being who I am and knowing what I represent, so.
What qualities do you think drove you to be where you are today?
Perseverance. I pushed forward, and when I ran for office after having my 2 kids, it's probably the hardest thing I've ever done. It was very hard. I didn't really know how to run a campaign, and there's not really like a book, but behind me was a very amazing group of people that helped me make it to the goal. And just pushing forward, knowing that if I worked harder, I won because I worked harder, and I was the best candidate, but because I worked hard. I really worked hard. I worked so hard to get to this. I pushed forward, and I didn't let all the noise back me from what was the most important thing, which was the people and what they wanted and pushing forward. So if you want something, work hard, even if it takes time. I started thinking about running for office about 10 years ago. So that's how long it's been in my mind. What am I gonna do? Where am I gonna go? So just perseverance and hard work, really hard work. Is that it? Well, I wanna thank you for your time. I can be found, you just Google me, and if anybody has any questions, if you ever wanna reach out to me, you can always email me. I'm here to serve, So happy for this morning and so happy that you guys had me here discussing my journey, and I hope it's inspired you for your journey. Never give up, put in the hard work, it pays off. And if life sidetracks you, don't worry. Just get back in the lane, stay in your lane, and reach your goals. Thank you again.
Thanks everybody for coming out. Give it up for Yvette Drucker, please. Yeah. Escort everybody back to their classroom. Thanks for coming.